Guys, happy coffee talk. You are the very first people that I talk to in the morning sometimes. I get up, I roll out of bed, I get dressed, and I make coffee, and I do this. And it's kind of nice because you really are getting the first things that I think about in the morning. But first, coffee. I'm drinking this in this cool Etsy mug I got. It's got like some kind of birds on it. And then what to me looks like, like speckled robin eggs as the color. And I'm drinking Black Rifle coffee. I want to dive right into my coffee talk thought for this morning because it is at the top of my mind. So I've shared some version of this with you before, but I want to reiterate this, and then we're going to talk about habits. And so the takeaway from today's podcast episode is you want to make changes specifically to your habits and routines, but you struggle to do it because it's easier to stay in the status quo. And let me explain or paint a picture of what this typically looks like for people. And then I'm going to give you a rule that helps me quite a bit. So first off, most of the time when we want to make change, it haunts us like a shadow because it's not just the first time we think of something, right? We think of, oh, well, let me make this change and then you do it. I mean, yeah, maybe you do that in your house or whatever, but it tends to be for things that are stuck in your routines. You're not waking up one morning and changing your job. You're not waking up one morning and all of a sudden you're changing your body. It's usually something you thought about for a while, right? Again, that's what I'm saying. You might wake up that one morning and decide to make the change, but it didn't just dawn on you that day. People who are struggling, not feeling good in their body, they've thought about it for weeks, months, even years potentially, where again, it feels like a shadow. It haunts you. It's, there when you put on your clothes. It's there when you're running out the door for your day. It's there when you're ordering lunch, when you're out to eat and you're like, should I order this? People think I'm on a diet. Should I not order this? People think I should be on a diet. You're constantly thinking about it. You're wondering if you look nice in clothes. Maybe you felt good in your work clothes, but then you come home and you try to put on something else and you don't feel good in it. So you just put on the loose sweats, the stuff that's like kind of sad, but whatever, it's comfortable. And it haunts you. And then in the evening at night when you're having like those extra snacks and treats and stuff because you're tired and you just need an outlet at the end of your day, it's still haunting you that you want to make these changes. And so you multiply that by weeks, months, whatever. It seems very compelling. Why, if you feel that, shadow haunting you, couldn't you just do it? Well, let me first just give you permission to say you can. Okay? You absolutely can just wake up and decide enough is enough. I'm going to make some changes. So first, that is 100% possible and real. Most people though, they want to approach, well, how can I keep most of my day kind of the same? But I need to change the things that are going to make me lose weight, or I'm going to need to change the things that are going to make me feel stronger, or I'm going to need to change the things, that lead to X, Y, and Z. So you don't necessarily want to throw your entire day out the window. You want to preserve some pieces of it, but you need to change the parts that are leading to the result you don't want. And so that's where this whole habit change conversation comes up. It's like, well, how do I change my habits around snacking? How do I change my habits around sugar? How do I change my habits around breakfast or around lunch or around dinner? How do I change my habits around socializing and drinking? So it becomes habits. How do I have a better morning routine so that I'm actually ready for my day and I can make it to the gym? How do I change my habits? Okay. So we get to this point. So we know somebody who's been thinking about making changes for a really long time, they know they want to. They don't want to change their entire day. They want to change the parts that aren't working for them. And so they're like, okay, well, I need to change my habits. So then what happens? Well, usually what happens is some sort of investigation. It could be talking to people, right? All of a sudden we become detectives. Hey, what have you been doing? You look pretty good. Like, tell me more about that. Or maybe you're online and you're searching and you're saying, okay, well, what is it that I should be doing? And you're looking up different programs and you're thinking about it. Or maybe you're consuming an ebook. You bought a book and you're like, hey, let me read this book about these things. Okay. And so you're trying to figure it out. You're investigating. And usually that is the stage before making some sort of decision, whether it's like committing to doing a program or saying, hey, I'm going to make this change because I read this book and whatever. You're thinking about it. But then as you're consuming all this information, it's very difficult to retain anything. You might, as you're reading a book, I don't know if this ever happened to you, reading a book and you're like, oh my God, that was for me. Aha, that was like a aha moment. Like that was just for me. Or you're listening to podcasts about things that you should do to make changes. You're like, aha, that was for me. And you're thinking all these things as you're consuming this information, but then tomorrow comes and you don't actually employ any of the information that you consumed. You've got it all in the back of your head, but you're not necessarily utilizing any of it. Or maybe you've forgotten it altogether. You're like, man, that was such a good book. But when it comes to actually utilizing it in your day, in your life, you're not using it. Why? Why? I want to give you like a different approach to this. Because almost always we think, well, there's something wrong with my discipline. There's something wrong with X, Y, and Z. And I think one of the problems might be not what you think. I think one of the problems is less about discipline and more about overconsumption and underutilization of the information that we get. We consume information all day. Like you might be on your phone consuming inspirational posts on Instagram or Facebook. You might go on Pinterest and consume, healthy recipe ideas. You might go on YouTube and watch videos about how does this work or that work. You might sign up for a program and think that you're going to do it, and then you don't remember. You don't remember any of the things in it, so you're not using any of the things in it. You're consuming, but underutilizing. And so the gap isn't to utilize everything. I think, and I generally employ this rule of 3, and maybe this will be helpful for you. Whenever I go to an event, like I've gone to many certifications for nutrition, for fitness. I've gone to workshops, business-oriented things. I've gotten to talk at those, like be a speaker. I've also attended them to learn. I've gotten to do some really cool stuff. But whenever I go to an event, I might spend, let's say I spent $200 on the plane ticket each way. So that's $400. And then maybe the ticket to the event itself was $400. That's $800. So then you're like, okay, well then you've got to stay in a hotel. Maybe the hotel's 3 nights, is $200 a night. That's $600. We're at $1,400 right now. And you've got to buy food and stuff while you're there. That's another like $200, $1,600. And time. So say this took 3 or 4 days to go to an event to learn something, to consume information about something that I care about, that I want to either utilize to coach people or help people or change in my own life. Okay, so this is the scenario, right? So for example, like think about it. So maybe I want to learn to do something better and fit me. I want to learn to utilize a way to deliver our program better, a coaching program. So I go to a seminar and I really want to learn this because I want to make these changes because I've been thinking about them. And I think this will be a really good way to employ this for Fit Me. So I go to this seminar, I spend $1,600 like we just discussed, minimum to go in 3 days. So I'm there, I'm listening, I'm learning. Okay, cool. All this cool stuff. And I'm like, aha, oh yes, that's awesome. Everything I'm learning is so great. And I come back and I get right back to the daily grind of exactly what the status quo is, and I'm not using any of it. What's so crazy about that is exactly what we do with everything. We consume podcasts, audiobooks, all those inspirational things. We know we need it. We want to utilize it. We even invest time, money, energy into things, and then we don't use it. So here's what changed for me. When I started doing this rule of 3, it helped me piece out the things that I needed to use immediately. And then it also gave me a sense of assurance when I wasn't sure if I got something out of something. As long as I got 3 things that I can utilize and that I remember and that I'm actually going to take on board and put into my life, then it was very worth it. If you get one thing, say you attend a metabolism masterclass, I'm going to do one at the end of the month. Say you attend my metabolism masterclass and you get one thing out of that hour that sticks with you and you remember it and you start to utilize it. And tomorrow, instead of just having consumed information, you actually employ it in your day, and then you are using it as you go through your day. You have just invested a very solid hour because you have something you can take away. So if I go into a weekend, if I go into for example, that training that I was talking about, and I have 3 things, I spend 3 days, $1,600, and I learn all of this stuff, information, all of this stuff, but 3 things that I actually start using, then it was well worth it. And if I keep doing those 3 things, then they will alter, the course of where my coaching is going because I'm going to utilize those things. And so I want to challenge you to, if you read a book, to think, what are my 3 things that I'm going to use in my life from this, not just consume this information. So my rule of 3 is kind of, for events, big things, books, weekends, that kind of thing. But I think even just the rule of 1 can apply. If you're getting inspiration from someone and you're consuming a bunch of their posts and you're like, this is really great. This person has given me all of this energy and excitement. But then you don't even pick one thing that you're going to employ today. Then you're not getting inspiration. That person is not actually helping you. You're just consuming. You need to be able to utilize something. So people who are doing Nutrition Bootcamp right now, I think we have like 275 people participating in Nutrition Bootcamp. My goal for them after they have watched, so each day there's a 3 to 5 minute video that they're going to learn something about nutrition. Then they have to do an action step. People who are participating in Nutrition Bootcamp are doing like fitness targets too, and then a little bit of house cleanup. That's the bootcamp. It's a fun game, but it's really a learning game. After watching 10 videos, all 5 minutes apiece, you'll have invested an hour in watching me teach you things about nutrition. If you even utilize one of those things in the long term, this entire 10 days was worth it. Because one thing that you actually employ in your life and keep going and use is going to change the trajectory that you're on, as opposed to consumption, and never using anything. And so my advice, my thought is that maybe part of your problem isn't discipline. Maybe it's overconsumption and underutilization of the things that you're learning. And you shouldn't try to use everything because that's not going to work. But somewhere between 1 to 3 things you should use and employ immediately. And so habit change is less about hacking your way into a new routine. You can use cool things that remind you to drink your water and blah, blah, blah. But what works better is a fundamental shift in belief that happens when you adopt new information and decide you're going to employ it. Because when you have taken on that new information, I did a podcast about this a couple months ago, or maybe a couple weeks ago, where I was like, sometimes we hear something one time and it's not because we changed our habits and used some cool strategy. We've just immediately adopted the belief system. Like, for example, that Sprouts give you salmonella. You hear that one time, you're done. You're not buying Sprouts anymore. It doesn't matter what your habits and routines are. You've changed your belief system around Sprouts. And so what I'm saying is as you're consuming your audiobooks, your podcast, your Nutrition Bootcamp, your coaching that you're doing, your inspiration on Instagram, on YouTube, on Facebook, or whatever, stop consuming so much and start using more. And if you find something that's solid, like a really good book or a really great inspirational person, you don't need to use everything that they've said. That'll slow you down. Pick 1 to 3 things and go. Shift the belief system and go. Believe that the Sprouts have salmonella and stop buying them. Believe that, sugar creates more cravings for sugar and stop stocking your house with it. Adopt that belief system and then employ the action immediately. And then things are going to start to feel a lot different. Your investment of time into something is going to feel a lot different. And you're going to be less frustrated with yourself because you're going to have less of this like discipline fight with yourself and more of the, what are my takeaways here? Is there something here that I'm actually going to use right now and run with? So hopefully this was helpful. Thanks so much for listening to Coffee Talk. It means so much to me that you listen. If you have a topic that you'd like me to discuss, shoot me a DM on Instagram. I would love to hear what's on your mind and do an episode on that. So thanks as always for plugging in. If you haven't done so, subscribe to Fit Me Coffee Talk on your favorite podcast platform. And if you're not a part of our Facebook group yet, come on over to Facebook, search Fit Me Community. Today is the last day you can join boot camp because it's a 10-day boot camp, but you have 14 days to complete. And so if you jumped in today, you can still finish it in time. So if you'd like to join, come on over to Facebook, search Fit Me Community, request to join, and I will add you there. Talk to you soon. Take care. Bye.